listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Becoming More Me. I have a really cool new guest to share with you today. I have Sarah Stow, and she is coming to us all the way from Australia. So we're in very different time zones. And, we're just coming together today for some long distance sharing and connecting and conversation. Sarah is the host of the Launch Your Biz Now podcast, which is a great resource for new and aspiring business owners. She's also an award-winning financial advisor and teaches mumpreneurs how to build businesses on their terms. She's developed a 10-step framework to help entrepreneurs launch and scale their businesses. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that today. And she's helped hundreds of others to achieve their business goals while working with them one-on-one in her financial planning practice. Welcome, Sarah. Thanks for coming to join me today.
Thank you. So excited to be here, Teresa. It's wonderful to be on.
Oh, thanks. And I guess, we can kind of start from whatever the beginning seems to be. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live and how you got to be doing what you're doing in present moment.
It's certainly been a journey. I guess probably I'll start with how I ended up where I am now, and then I'll talk about the business journey because they're sort of intertwined, but a little bit different. So I was telling you just before that a shortened version of it is, pre-COVID, I had a financial planning business. This was pre-babies as well. And that business was, as you could imagine, really stressful, really high pace. There was a lot going on. It was all very crazy. And then I got pregnant, and that wasn't quite planned and didn't quite fit into my business plan and all of that wonderful stuff. So I had to really think about what I was going to do and how that was going to look. And so decided to sell that business because I really wanted that time to be at home with Bubs, and I hadn't got the business to a point where I could easily step out and have it running without pulling my hair out. So sold that business. Then we actually bought a caravan. So we were planning to do 12 to 18 months lap around Australia, ordered the caravan. By the time it arrived, so we'd ordered it, I think, in maybe December, and that was of 2019. And you can imagine what I'm going to say next. By the time it arrived, it was COVID and the world shut down. We couldn't go out of our town, let alone our state. So we had this beautiful big caravan sitting there doing nothing. So I think we were in a bit of an early midlife crisis at this point. We were both a bit burnt out, wanted something else. So we thought, well, if we can't go in our caravan and go holidaying, what's the next best thing you do in a midlife crisis in your early 30s? And we bought a farm in the middle of nowhere with no farming experience, no idea what we're going to do with it, but we bought a farm. So did that, went out there, thought I would really love this new life and being at home and all that sort of stuff. And I really did. I think I needed it for a while because I was pretty burnt out, but it wasn't long before I was at home going, oh, what am I doing now? My world's just these babies, which is wonderful. But I think I realized I needed something for me as well. And I needed to find that purpose for me again. And I love business. So all along this journey, I guess this is getting back to the journey of the business now, is I realized I've been one of those people that just always loved setting up businesses. So, some of them, I will set up and test it out and I'm like, oh, that sucked, and get rid of that. Or just whatever. And they've been in a range of different things. So from financial planning, my husband's a landscaper, so set up his landscaping business. When we bought the farm, we set up a pastured egg farm with free range chickens and chicken caravans, done microgreens. When I had my babies, I got into cloth nappies. So we set up a cloth nappy subscription business, all of these businesses. So love all this stuff. And it was with the last business that we set up, which was for the pastured eggs for the farm. When I was doing it all, it was great in theory, And then I realized what it actually was to have a pastured egg farm. And I was out there in the freezing cold collecting eggs every single day, packing eggs. And I was like, what am I doing? This is not the bit that I love. But I realized at that point, the bit I did love was the setting up of the business and that process. And because I'd done it so many times for myself and for other people, I realized there was a clear framework that I was doing when I was setting that up. And it was just my aha moment out there in the middle of the paddock with gumboots on collecting eggs, where I went, oh, no, this is actually what I like. Like, it's not the actual businesses, it's the setting up of them. So then this new business evolved from there. And I guess the thing is that I've done really differently with this, and what I have put into this business and I help other people with in my course is doing it with purpose. Because as you know, Teresa, pre-kids, when you've got your 24 hours in a day or whatever time that you have, and you've got a job that you want to do, you can allocate all of your time to that. Yeah. Post-kids, that just doesn't happen. You can have the best intentions in the world to get stuff done, and you just can't. So I reckon you've got a couple of hours a day that you might be able to allocate towards whatever you're looking at doing.
Yeah.
So
I
how are you
will
going to make the
say
most of that?
though that I think I allocate those few hours a day way better with 4 kids than I ever allocated an empty day before I had kids. So I don't know. I always say when you need something done, give it to a busy mom because we know
Yes.
how to make our time work.
Count.
But
And I think that's
it does take
exactly it is,
strategy.
it's about purpose now. So before I would be able to, chuck stuff at the wall and hope it sticks. Whereas now I know that I've only got a limited amount of time. So anything that I am doing, I know I need to have a clear purpose for it. Like, why am I doing that? What result am I going to get from it? How does that actually look for me? And is that actually what I want to be doing? Like, I
And
used to
does
say
it
yes to
matter?
all the things. Yeah, exactly. And now I'm really cautious. And I'm like, no, that doesn't fit with me. It doesn't align with what I'm wanting to do. So I say no. So it's completely changed the way that I do business.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. So now I have an online business. So as we're talking about with the farm, I am half an hour away from my closest city, and our farm is, the closest neighbor's like 5 k's away. And it's very remote. So when I wanted to set up a new business again, there was pretty limited options. And I love this professional service stuff. So I really had to consider with this business how I was going to do it. So it's online, and I set up an online course. And of course, I've got to fit it in with having the kids. So I've got to make sure, like, I can't do the one-on-one appointments like I used to, because then there'll be kids in the background of my Zoom meetings or whatever it might be, which sometimes there might still be. But,
I get that.
you've just got to do things a bit differently and set the business up a bit differently. So, yeah, that's a lot of the stuff that I help people with now in my Launch Your Biz Now course.
Yeah, that's great. And I can relate to so much of what you're saying from the standpoint of like, trying your hand at all these different things and then having those aha moments and everything else. And I know for me, some things that came out were my high functioning anxiety and
Mm.
also my ADHD and the way that those played in as superpowers really to what I was doing. Do you have anything like that, like ADHD or anxiety or anything that kind of propel
Oh,
you behind the scenes?
gosh, I think every person has a bit of anxiety, like, these days, but definitely the anxiety. But the number one thing that I think I did is, for me, I used to love when I was operating in that sort of stress. I don't know what the, terminology is for it in the psych world or anything, but that stress under really high pressure, that was where I loved to be. And it was really high performance. That's where I sort of thrived in. But what I did realize is when I got burnt out in my old business and when I decided to sell and all that sort of stuff, is that's all good and well to operate in that space for a short amount of time, but you need to learn how to switch back out of that stage and how to be, use that in the normal part of life without always putting yourself under so much pressure. So
It's really
that's
important to
probably,
tune into what fuels us. And then
Yeah.
to realize when we're actually being fueled by something that's healthy, some of us
Yeah.
lose all of our motivation. And then we have to
Yeah.
really examine like why we're addicted to the stress and
Yes.
the craziness and all that kind of stuff, and really
And
kind
the
of pull
shiny new
ourselves back
object
down so that
syndrome,
we
that's
can,
another big one. Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Pull ourselves down to be human beings instead of human doings, you know?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's all amazing. I feel like everyone has a potential business inside of them, just like waiting to
Yes.
be birthed, but like not everyone's cut out for business building or running the show. And that's totally cool. You know, we're all right where we need to be. But and I have a lot of thoughts on this from like where I stand and the work that I do with my clients. But for people who would potentially be aligned with the idea of creating a business, a
Mm.
legacy, a thing of their own, what do you think are the big reasons why they don't?
Oh, definitely reasons why they don't is I think as it used to be a lot more about accessibility. I think that's changing. I think people weren't sure how to go about it. I think a big one's not knowing what to do. So, it's finding a clear framework that you can work through. But mostly, as you would see with your stuff as well, it's mindset. It's those limiting beliefs and those things that we're telling ourselves. There's the fear of failure, there's the fear of what people think. Like over here, have you ever heard of tall poppy syndrome?
Yes.
Is that, yeah,
But feel
that's a
feel free
saying
to
that's,
explain it. It's for people that
yeah,
haven't.
yeah. I wasn't sure if that was a comment. So we are terrible in Australia for what we call tall poppy syndrome. So I think you guys are really good over there when people are doing, awesome stuff. You get behind each other and you're like, wow, that's incredible. Like, well, that's what I feel from listening to the podcast and things that I'm listening to. In Australia, if you're doing something awesome, somebody will look at you and be like, who do they think they are? Like, what makes them think that they can do those sorts of things? And we just seem to have this, and I have no idea where it came from, but we are horrendous at it. So we would much prefer to bring people down than pump them up. So, anytime somebody's going to put themselves out there in the world, they're sitting going, oh, I'm going to do this. And then Joe blows down the road's going to say, who does she think she is? How does she think she knows enough to set up a business? Like, all of those sorts of things. So we self-sabotage
Oh
ourselves.
yeah.
So,
Because if you're out there proving that it's possible, then that means that they need to level up, and that makes them
yes,
too freaking uncomfortable. So they want to bring you back down to that place where they don't have to do anything and they don't have to be anything more. And
exactly.
you just stay there with them and then they can be comfortable.
Well, that's it. And it's a lot easier to criticize somebody for doing something than it is to criticize them for doing nothing. So I always think if somebody's talking about you, that if it's good or bad, then that's great
Yep.
because they're talking about you and you're doing something to make it worth
Yeah.
talking
Learning
about.
to
So,
process that kind of feedback in a healthy way is important for all of us. And it doesn't
yeah.
matter whether it's actually being said and you're hearing it from somebody, or in your head, you're thinking, well, I'm probably not cut out for this, or somebody's thinking, who the heck is she to be putting herself
Hmm.
out there in this way? Because either
Yeah.
way, it's doing the same thing to your mental state and everything else. And it's not real.
No, and it's so hard. Like overcoming all that mindset stuff is such a hard thing. And especially if you are starting up a new business and you're a solopreneur and you're out there doing it just with yourself. So you've got no one that you're leaning on. It's really hard to stay in a positive mindset all the time. But it's just having that self-belief and being able to talk to yourself and go, I can do this. I am doing this. Like no one knows exactly what you know. No one does exactly what you do. No one has the skills that you have and they can't offer what you offer. And it's actually that you being you is what makes it so special.
We all
So
need
I
that
think if you just
reminder.
own that, yeah, like it's a pretty powerful stuff. So yeah,
Because we
that's
forget
probably,
that we know what we know, and we take for
yeah.
granted this amazing bank of knowledge and life experiences and everything else that we have, and how we do have this very unique perspective to offer people just from being ourselves. And because
Absolutely.
that's who we've been and what we've been doing, and it's our life, we think, it's just it's just
Yeah,
me.
that's just
Like
me.
it's
Yeah,
just how I live or how I think or how I do stuff. And everybody must know this because I know this and I'm nobody special. So, but
exactly.
it's not the
And if
truth.
you've got something like that, that might be something that's worth setting up a business for. If you've got one of those things that just comes so naturally to you that you don't even realize it's a skill set, that's your business.
Yeah, I mean, I realized too that like every business calls for different components to create their, their secret sauce and to make things amazing. And what skill sets do you feel are important for just about like anyone when they're starting a business, no matter what their thing is?
Oh, skill sets. I guess I call it my pyramid. So with a business, there's a pyramid. So I have the 10 foundational pillars, and I guess that's the what. So that's cover, and this is what's at the base of it. And this is covering things like you need to have a marketing plan, you need to have a sales strategy, you need to test your business idea before you launch it, you need to know your numbers, you need to have a scale up plan so you know where you're taking your business, you need to launch your business, you need to have processes and systems in your business, and all this stuff that sits at the base of the business. And first of all, one thing I see is people don't set all of those up. And then they go sit there looking, and they might do the stuff that you see on the outside. So you might see the social media account. So most people will have that. They might have a website. They might do all that sort of stuff, but they don't have the stuff that's sitting behind that you don't see. And so, like anything, if you've got a base and you've only got half your base in place, it's not going to stand very well, and you're not going to get the results that you were hoping for. So that's the first bit, is you've got to have all of those pillars. Then what overlays that is probably this next bit, is what you were asking initially, is how each of them work into each other. So it's one thing to know what you need to do. It's another thing to know why you need to do it and have a strategy around it and actually take action. So that's plan, strategy, action. So it's literally that for each of those things that make up your business. Why are you doing it? What are you expecting to get out of it? And how are you going to do that? How are you going to measure it? What does that look like? And having a plan that way. And then the next bit of your pyramid that sits above that is mindset, because you can see two businesses that are doing exactly the same thing as each other. And you sit there looking at them going, well, why are they getting these? Or it doesn't have to be business. Like you can see anyone that's, someone on a diet. This probably a more common example. If you're on a diet and two people are doing the exact same thing on this diet, but one's getting really good results and one's not, and you're wondering why. And I think most of the time that's probably down to their mindset, how they're doing it and what they're thinking and what they're telling themselves, and what they believe and all that sort of stuff. So without mindset, everything else doesn't work. It doesn't matter how good or how much support you get and what sort of things come into play, you're just not going to get there. So working on your mindset and working with people like you that are helping people with that is so important. And then, of course, the bit that sits on the top of the pyramid is the product. So what you're actually selling. So that's probably the last bit that people need to focus on. And it's probably the first thing people do focus on and the main thing they do. So that's how everything sort of works in together. And it's, just trying to get all of those pieces of the puzzle or the pyramid right, so you can have success.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting. I mean, I feel like business coaching and manifesting are pretty much the same thing, just put in different ways. But,
Yes.
because I mean, you have all the different steps when you're manifesting things of, really getting conscious and clear on why you're doing what you're doing and why you want it, and kind of releasing attachment to the outcome while you kind of live into the reality of it all. And then the obstacles come, and the way that people handle the obstacles has a lot to do not only with mindset, but why I got into the work that I do is because for me, mindset wasn't enough. And that nervous system work was very, very important to back up the stuff that I couldn't know better and do better. Because that's a lot of
Yes.
mindset feels like to me, okay, so now I understand this and this is how it should work and this is how maybe I should feel about it or how I should process it, but I'm still
How do
stuck.
I? Yeah, that's it. It's
Yeah,
like telling
I'm
someone to be
still
happy when
stuck.
they're
Something's
sad,
not
and you're
right in
just
my
like,
body, something's not right in my energy, something's not, so that deeper stuff, and kind of acknowledging the obstacles and accepting them as gifts because they're giving you, I mean, in the business coaching sense, they're giving you data and they're giving you an understanding of what needs to change or be adjusted or whatever to get a better result. And it's the same thing when you're manifesting. It's just data. Everything is just data. And then, kind of feeling into it and moving forward, not forcing it, but trusting it, and releasing the resistance. And of course, like celebrating the whole darn way, whether you're celebrating a failure or a success, so that you can kind of convene with the universe and create more of it. So I always see those like amazing parallels between building businesses and it's raising kids, manifesting,
Yeah,
whatever. It all like has these parallels for sure in it. And
absolutely.
yeah, so how did you clarify your own business idea and decide what you would be doing for your business? I think you shared a little bit about this, but I know you help other people clarify theirs. So I'm just curious,
Yeah.
like, what was your process for getting really clear on your own?
Yeah, so it was definitely so there's a bit of a framework that I follow. I call it a matrix. And this is what I think people don't do is because we can set up businesses and we look around at what's done in other businesses and you just think that's what you need to do. So, especially like full-time work, like everyone thinks, oh, I've got to work, it's got to be 40 hours a week or,
Mhm.
whatever the full-time rate is. And that's just what they do. So when they're setting up their businesses, they set that up as an expectation too. So what I do and what I want people to do, and becoming a mum is really what made me consider this and shape this into this matrix, is consider the outcome that they're wanting to give people rather than the service they're wanting to give people. So, if you're asking somebody, what do you do? Then they might turn around and go, I'll use a gardener as an example because I find it really easy because it's my husband, so I listen to him talk about all this stuff. So if somebody asks him what he does, he's a landscaper, and if he knows I called him a gardener, he will probably kill me. But anyway, they're apparently very different. Who knows? Yeah,
He's
so
not the usual type of person that's probably listening to my show, so I think we're safe.
we won't be in trouble. Good. Yeah, so let's say you're a gardener. Then you go, okay, well, I do people's gardens, but no, that's what you do. But what you're actually doing is giving them the outcome. So what outcome are they getting from you coming to do their garden? So then you would go, all right, well, the outcome they're getting is they're getting a beautiful space to enjoy outside with their friends and their family, something to show off that they're really proud of, that they can have everyone over, they can, enjoy this space, they can spend time out there in the sun and, all of that wonderful feelings and the experience that you have with it. So it's not so much that they're wanting to get a gardener. Like nobody goes, oh, I just want to get a gardener for the sake of getting a gardener. They want a gardener for all of the outcome that they get from it, the stuff that they get. So first of all, it's about clarifying that. So you go, okay, well, I don't need to be, I'm not a gardener. Well, you are, but I am giving that outcome rather than the service. And then from there, you need to have a really good think about what you want from your business. So this is the important thing, is you are building this business around you, not the other way around. And whatever you do at the start is probably going to be how the business develops from there. So make sure you're really intentional with how you're spending your time, what you agree on, what services you offer, and how all of that looks. So what I'm talking about there is having a think about a few different things. So first of all is, how many hours a week do you want to work? Do you want to work full time? Do you want to work 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours? What does that look like? How much income do you want to make from your job? What are you needing to make a year? What's a comfortable amount that gives you the life that you want to have? Then it's, all right, well, what flexibility do you need with your job? And I'll go through a few examples in a second with this, so it all starts pulling together. But yeah, what flexibility do you need to work a certain amount of hours? Do you need to have a day off? Do you want to have, all the school holidays off with the kids? Or what does that look like for you? What's important to you? And then, of course, it's, where do you want to work from? Do you want to work from home? Are you living in the middle of nowhere like me and need that remote work location? Or do you like getting out of the house? Like some of my mum friends, I would never work a job where I have to go into the office again. But some of my friends, that's their time to get out of the house and be away from the kids and all that sort of stuff. So they're like, hell yes, I want an office. Like, do not lock me up at home any more than I have to be. So, whatever that is for you, write it down. Then once you've got all of that done, you go, all right, well, what way could I deliver my service offering or that outcome that I'm wanting to give people using different delivery methods? And what I'm talking about here is, you can do one-on-one service. And this example is probably pretty service-based, business specific, but you can change this to whatever sort of business you've got. But yeah, do you want to do one-on-one consultations with people? And then you go, all right, well, if I'm doing one-on-one consultations and I'm only wanting to work 10 hours a week, and I want an income. So I'll use one of my friends as an example for this. She's got a couple of kids that she's homeschooling. She only wants to work 10 hours a week. She wants an income of $50,000 a year. So that gives her everything she needs to support her family. And she wants the flexibility that she can be with the kids and she doesn't have to be tied to a set time, because, you never know how little kids are going to react and what time you're going to have, all that sort of stuff. And she wants to be able to work from home. So she has the kids with her. So for her, doing one-on-one wasn't going to give her the $50,000. It's in a spirituality area of business, and the hourly rate wasn't going to allow her to do that with working 10 hours. So she went, all right, well, working one-on-one doesn't work for me. I need to look at a different way that I'm delivering my service model. So for her, rather than doing one-on-one, it's a membership that she's doing. So she goes, okay, well, with a membership, I can do it in my own time. I can pre-create all of the content for the membership. I can load it up when I can. I'm not having to do anything in person. I don't have to be at a scheduled time in front of people. So it's really flexible. That works for me. I can sell that to a lot of people and really scale that up. So that membership allows me to reach my goal of $50,000 income, and I can do it from home. So that works for her. Then back to our gardener example. So they might enjoy going to do one-on-one services, but and they might want to work 30 or 40 hours. So great. One of their services they offer is going to do people's gardening for them. But then they also might go, all right, well, there's some different areas that I want to be able to help people with, or I want to earn more income, or I want a bit more flexibility, or maybe they only want to do 10 hours a week of garden maintenance or whatever it might be. How else are they going to do that? So maybe they go, all right, well, if people are wanting, this garden and they're looking for this beautiful experience in their space, how else could they get that? And maybe you put together a garden design plan or a course where you're walking people through where they can design their own garden and learn how to maintain their own garden. So that's available. So instead of having to have you out there giving that service offering, maybe they're doing it in course form. And maybe people are paying a lower fee for that compared to what they would if they were doing that one-on-one with you, because of course it's in course. So that's another service offering. They might also go, all right, well, people have got lawns that need regular maintenance. So how about I set up a regular subscription of the products that they'll need to put on their lawns, and they get that once a season. And, I tell them how to do that so they can do that themselves. And that's helping to contribute to that outcome of having this beautiful outdoor space. And you can add on forever, or even use it as a way to, save your time when you're onboarding new people into your business. So they, especially as a gardener, for example, when they're out on the tools all the time in the field, they don't have the time to do quotes and organize different things like that. So maybe they have a freebie that they offer somebody, which is a PDF or something that shows them how to do the certain aspect or put together that basic garden design. So by the time that they get there to do a quote, the customer already knows what it is they're wanting. So they're not wasting that time trying to qualify them. So maybe it's different things like that. And you might use a few of these together. So I guess it's just being really, really considerate in what you are doing with your time and the outcome that you are wanting, and making sure that business and that business idea fits in with what you need. So I do have a free toolkit, which if you would like, I can send you the link for that people can get, and they can walk through this whole exercise.
Absolutely. What is it a link that you can mention too, so that people can
yeah. So it's Business Brains, which is my business.co, so co, and then /toolkit. So if you jump on there, you can get a free copy of my new biz toolkit, and that'll walk you through this whole exercise. So if there is an idea that you might have and something that you sort of pondering in your head going, oh, could this work for me? How would this look? that will walk you through the whole matrix. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's a
So
fun
I will
little
make sure that
exercise.
link is in the show notes so that people
Yeah.
don't have to remember it if they're not, writing it down or going to it right at this moment. But thank you so much for that. And is that part of like your 10-step framework, or is that a separate
No,
thing?
this is a separate thing altogether. So the 10-step framework really covers those foundational pillars. And the product, I think, is the thing that most people sort of have. Like so I like to try and help people with that separately and go, this is something that I will give you advice around, and take that sort of in and use it however you will with developing your product idea. But I know whatever product it is, these are the things that we need to have in place that underpin the success of that product. So that's where the 10 steps fall under.
Very cool. I like that. Now, I think, we neglect the energetics of the person behind the business a lot. But from where I stand, I think we need things that are kind of like emotion proof and resistance proof, and ways that we can just like be, and make things happen instead of having to do all the time. What are some of the things that you find helpful and recommend, no matter what the state of the economy or the business person themselves, or whatever it might be, so that they can be successful with their businesses?
Oh, um, I think obviously the mindset piece. So I love visualizations, and I love to write down the future me and where I'm going to be. And maybe just doing, there's a few different ways that I do it, but I have little mantras that I might read to myself in the morning, especially if I've got something new coming up. I've got one at the moment that I've got on money, if you want me to read it to you. It's
Sure.
a little bit
I geek
embarrassing.
out
Hold
on
it.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I love it too.
While I feel in one way that like rituals and practice kind of they really don't mean anything other than the meaning we assign to them, I also really enjoy them. So I feel like if you enjoy
Yes,
it and you feel like it enriches your life and makes things easier for you, then by all means do it. And if it feels
absolutely.
like it's adding resistance or stress or tension or making things harder for you or feeling like a duty,
Yeah.
then don't do it.
Exactly. Because I think it's one thing to, everyone says write down your goals and all that sort of stuff, and absolutely do that. Like I have goals on my bedroom mirror, and I write down, I don't put much there, but I put the three main things. So this
Yeah.
year I had on there that I wanted to start a podcast, I wanted to set up my online course, and I wanted to write a book. I've done the online course and the podcast, haven't quite finished the book. So
Oh,
I'll
me
stay
either.
tuned for
I'm
that.
still
It's
working on the
one of
book.
those things.
Why are
And I've
books so hard?
Seriously, and my idea changes so much. I reckon I've
Oh,
gone through like a
yeah.
dozen different ideas, and then I'm like, oh no, 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 no,
It's
move on
like,
to the
oh,
next one.
I actually have 6 books in me and not one,
Yes,
but I don't know which one gets written first, and I'm not
yes,
sure how to hash it out. And then for me, the ADHD, like I think I've written the book 6 different
yeah,
times, like between podcast interviews and just like voice notes and everything else, but it's like
yes,
bringing all the pieces together and actually making it look, read, and sound like a book. Whew,
yes. So
that's
maybe we
that's
need
the
to
part
set
that's
up an
taken me a little bit.
accountability group together. So if anyone's listening to this
Yeah.
and also wants to write a book, we're doing this, guys. We're in.
Aspiring authors, come to us.
Yes,
We'll do a
yes, let's
mastermind
do
or
it.
something. Yeah, the accountability piece has always been huge for me in anything that I've been doing in my life. Having somebody to just be honest and vulnerable with and be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. I'm releasing my expectation of the outcome, but I still like I want to work towards that. And I need a hand to hold,
We
a
need that kick
spirit
in the
to
butt.
go with me on this journey. So I do
Oh,
appreciate it. And I understand the author's struggle, but
yes.
we will both be published authors at some point.
We absolutely will. It's happening. And now we've put it
Yeah,
out into the
on the way.
world. It's got no choice but to happen. So, we're there. We are
Yeah,
there. But
we just added our own accountability.
exactly, exactly. So that's the one thing I do. The other thing is these little mantras that I put together. So sometimes I think this is a bit lame when I have to actually say it out, but I love them. So I want you to hear a version of it.
Yeah,
So
no
um
judgment.
this is my money mantra. And of course, I have different things depending on what I'm working on at the moment. But at the moment, I'm using a lot of energy into the launch of my course that's going to be live really, really soon. So I've been working on this one. So this is how it goes. I'm in control of the money that comes to me. I attract wealth, prosperity, and success. Opportunities invite themselves to me that result in financial reward. I invite a $30,000 launch for my Launch Your Biz Now course in October. I will financially support myself and my family. We will live in abundance. Money is not an issue for me. Money flows to me. I'm an energetic match for large sums of money. I'm inviting an abundance of money to come to me. So that's just
I
something that
love
I
it.
have been doing each morning, which I find really powerful. So just, yeah, sitting there, having a moment with that. So I think if anyone wants to do any of those practices, but really it's just getting it down. It's getting it out, like just like what we did there with the book. Once you put it out into the world, you've got no choice but to hold yourself accountable to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, however you do that, whether it's writing it down, whether it's doing mantras, whether it's putting on your mirror in your bedroom or just telling your friends, just do that. So
Yeah.
that's the best bit.
Yeah. And if you're somebody who doesn't align with affirmations or something, then there's always the things that you have to kind of like work on in between there. I know for
Mm,
me, I wanted to align with affirmations for a long time, and I do now, but for a lot of people, there's like this gap,
mm,
between where they are, where they want to be, and saying that they're already there actually adds in more
super.
resistance. And that's like where my EFT work comes in, because I'm like, okay, so we got to root out that negative stuff so that we can actually, I'll go back to your gardening example, so we can actually plant the garden and have it grow, the garden
Mm,
being the affirmations that we want to make happen. If we have all the weeds in there still, then it's just going to be ugly. So yeah, I love it. I love your example, and I love what you're feeding yourself every morning with that. I have a practice of recording my visualizations, affirmations, goals, that kind of stuff on a voice note, and then I like that state that you're working through when you wake in the morning, when your
mm,
subconscious is still very multiple and everything else. So then I just kind of put my headphones on as I'm still laying in bed, and I very much tune into them as I listen to my own voice telling them to me. Another thing I love to do is to listen to them or speak them in front of a mirror, like
mm.
lock eyes with yourself. It is some powerful stuff. It can get the tears going sometimes too, but just we rarely ever look at ourselves in that
Mm.
way and really like speak to what matters to us. So it is really powerful, and it's
Oh,
really
it's so
awesome.
powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. And I was telling you before this how powerful I think tapping is and how amazing it is that you do that. And I've only done it just a few times and I have a variation that I do. But yeah, listening to some of your stuff today, I was so excited about it all over again. So I might need to add that back into my daily routine as well.
I really credit it with kind of getting me to a new level of consciousness and continually doing that. And I I for me, and I work with a lot of like business coaches like you. So like we make a good team, because
Yeah.
oftentimes, the business and the strategy is coming in, and that's what was happening for me. Like I would be working with a coach and building my business and going through all these action steps and these doing things. And then I'd get stuck somewhere emotionally where even if that coach or person or business that I was working with provided mindset work, it still wasn't taking care of what I
Mm.
needed moved out of the way. So when I added that layer, and when I help people that are working with business coaches to add that layer of support to root out the deeper stuff, then everything they do with their business coach goes smoother and better and accelerates and has better
Yes.
efficiency. And then oftentimes when people are working with their emotions, then they want to go get a business coach because they want that added layer of accountability and support. So it's extremely complementary. And I feel like one doesn't really work as well without the other, and vice
Oh,
versa, when you're trying to
absolutely.
get from point A to point B. So I totally appreciate, what you do and how you help people. And you have any good pointers on that time management or finding time to start a business?
Jesus. Time management. I honestly think the number one thing that it all comes down to is that purpose piece. So I like to call it doing business with purpose, and this is what I try to support everybody to be able to do. And that's what we started touching on before, where is look at everything that you need to do. If it's fluff, does it actually need to happen? Like, and whether this is business and in life, like, do you need to be doing that thing? If you're not going to get the result out of it that you want to achieve, then is it important? Can you just say no to it? Like, how freeing is it when you've got you've been invited to a dinner or something that you really don't want to do, but you feel obligated to do. And if you just say no and you just go, oh, wow, that actually wasn't that hard. It's the same with business, same with life. So it's
I
just
absolutely love
understanding.
saying no to, like,
Yes.
so many things. I used to I used to not be great at it, but, like, I'm pretty good at it these days.
Oh,
Nope, 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 nope. It's
yes. I
it's
think
so,
that,
and it feels so good. I think a lot of times, though, the fluff is what we're comfortable with.
yeah.
And even when we know, okay, so actually doing, like, talking to the people who are my potential clients, actually, like,
Hmm.
getting my messaging in line, doing the things that move the dial,
Hmm.
I think I'm gonna go, like, post on social media, or, just do something fluffy, or, whatever, or go clean out my sock drawer, it's
Exactly.
comfortable. And I think that's also where we can get into that self-judgment, because we know that we're directing ourselves away from the stuff that actually matters, but
Hmm.
we don't know how to get through that internal barrier to actually doing the things that make it matter.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is where the three fundamentals of business, so the plan, action, and strategy, really come into play as well. Because the best way that you can stop yourself from procrastinating or getting sidetracked is knowing, one, why you're doing it. So the strategy, having a plan in place to do that, and actually taking action to tick off that plan. So,
Yeah,
it's looking at what job you need to do, breaking it down, seeing what tasks are involved, putting them all down onto paper, or, it doesn't even have to be that. It's just understanding that and then just
right.
working it way. And I think as well, manageable chunks, when you're looking at something and you go, oh my God, like I'm, starting a business, like that's so overwhelming. There's so much involved in that. Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's huge.
Yeah.
But
Do you
once you
provide an
start breaking it
accountability
down,
piece for your clients also?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think the accountability is so important, and the community. I think, we've got to show up there for each other to support each other. We're all going through this together. So it's a 10-week course. So it's each module is a week long and it's on a different area of the business, and each module falls into the next. So if you don't have this set, you're not going to have what underpins the next thing.
Yep.
So we're there besides each other going, all right, you do this, you got this, and let's achieve this together, and let's celebrate the success together when we do achieve it. Like you said before, like celebrate the success. Hopefully not too many failures, but if we have them, we learn from them and sort of go from there. But just being able to hold space for each other, support each other, and all be there together out with our little poppies at the top of the tall poppies happening. So
Yes. Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. Awesome. Where can people find more about you and what you do if they want to connect or learn more?
Would love to hear from everyone. So, if you're looking to set up a business, the best place to start is jumping over and downloading a copy of the toolkit at businessbrains.co/toolkit. If you would like to connect on Instagram, which is where you'll find me on socials, I am at businessbrains.au. Shoot me a message and tell me that you found me from this podcast. I would love to hear from you. Or you can also listen to my podcast. So if you're listening to this, you're obviously a podcast listener. So you can find me at Launch Your Biz Now, which is the podcast for all new and aspiring business owners. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And yeah, would be great to connect.
Awesome. I will make sure all of that goes into the show notes so that it's really easy for people to connect with you. And I just want to thank you for staying up late as a
Yeah.
mom of, two kids, especially one as young as your baby is, and your
Look,
sleep
it
is
has been
so.
a little while since I've stayed up to midnight, so we've done well.
Oh, well, yeah, it wasn't
It
quite the
was worth
party
it.
that I think I used to be used to when I would stay up till midnight, but
No, no,
it
I
was
should have poured a wine
meaningful.
and had a wine next to me at the same time, but that would have been a bit weird when you were having your breakfast smoothie at the same time. So
Hey, you know what? You're where you
no
are and
judgment.
I'm where I am, and either one is just right on time and perfectly fine. So, thank you for staying up late to be part of the show today and for sharing all of your business building knowledge and tips and tricks and hacks. I really appreciate it, Sarah.
Thank you, Teresa. Wonderful to share with you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.